On a quiet Sunday morning, the unthinkable happened at the world's most visited museum. In just minutes, thieves carried out a brazen daylight heist inside Paris's Louvre Museum, making off with crown jewels of inestimable historical value that once belonged to Napoleon and his family. This audacious robbery, unfolding even as visitors were already inside, has shocked France and the art world. How did it happen, and what exactly was stolen? Let's dive into the full story of the Louvre's 2025 jewel heist, a real-life art thriller. Among the treasures targeted were priceless jewels from the 19th century French imperial family. The Louvre confirmed that 8 historic pieces were stolen from the Apollo Gallery, which displays what remains of France's crown jewels. The collection included ornate diadems, necklaces, earrings, and brooches, items once worn by Emperor Napoleon's wives and relatives, all of inestimable heritage and historical value, as officials described. One centerpiece was the emerald-studded imperial crown of Empress Eugénie, wife of Napoleon III, encrusted with over 1,300 diamonds. Thieves dropped that crown during their escape, and it was later found abandoned and broken outside the museum. These artifacts are not only made of precious gems and gold, they carry immense historical significance, having adorned royalty and survived upheavals like the French Revolution. The heist itself was highly coordinated and lightning fast. At around 9:30 a.m. on Sunday, October 19th, just after opening time, 4 thieves in balaclavas and construction vests drove a truck to a side of the Louvre and deployed a mobile basket lift, cherry picker, up to a second-floor window of the Apollo Gallery. They even cordoned off the area with traffic cones, posing as legitimate workers to avoid suspicion. Using an angle grinder, disc cutter, the intruders sliced through the window panes and forced their way inside the gallery. Once inside, with some visitors and staff nearby, the thieves smashed 2 glass display cases containing the Napoleon jewels and French crown jewels exhibits. They brandished their power tools threateningly at guards and staff, unarmed but intimidating, ensuring no one interfered. In a matter of minutes, the criminals grabbed the selected jewels and fled. Officials later described the robbery as a very professional operation with no gunfire or injuries, completed in as little as 4 to 7 minutes from start to finish. Alarms finally rang out at 9:37 a.m., but by that time the burglars were already making their escape. They retraced their route, climbing back out through the window and descending the exterior lift. By 9:38 a.m., the gang had hopped onto 2 waiting Yamaha T-Max scooters and vanished into the Paris streets. The getaway bikes, high-powered models capable of quick acceleration, sped off toward a nearby highway. In an attempt to cover their tracks, the thieves tried to set the basket lift on fire before fleeing, hoping to destroy evidence of their entry point. However, this arson attempt failed. Security officers managed to prevent the blaze, leaving the metal lift largely intact for investigators to examine. The escape was as swift and daring as the heist itself, leaving tourists and guards in disbelief. In their haste, however, the criminals abandoned key pieces of evidence. Police soon discovered the gang's tools and gear strewn around the scene. 2 angle grinders, a blowtorch, gasoline canisters, gloves, a walkie-talkie, and the heavy imperial crown that had been dropped in the gallery. Investigators also found a fluorescent yellow construction vest that one suspect discarded on a nearby street, which could carry DNA or other clues. All these items were immediately collected for forensic analysis. Authorities are now poring over surveillance camera footage from inside the Denon wing and along the Seine riverfront, tracing the robbers' escape route. According to the culture minister, one of the getaway motorcycles has been identified by its license plate, providing a potential lead in the manhunt. With Paris on high alert, an intense search is underway for any trace of the thieves or the missing jewels. France's specialist art crime police unit has taken charge of the investigation. So far, no arrests have been announced, but officials say this was clearly the work of an experienced organized gang rather than opportunists. The Paris prosecutor called the heist very professional and noted the thieves were startlingly calm and prepared, suggesting they had scouted the museum in advance. Investigators are exploring the possibility that the perpetrators were commissioned by a private collector, essentially stealing on order, or that they targeted the jewels intending to pry out the gems and melt down the precious metals for sale. Experts warn that if not recovered swiftly, These historic jewels could be broken apart and their distinctive stones recut to erase their provenance, making them easier to sell on the black market. Key questions remain unanswered. How could a gang pull this off in a busy museum just after opening? Did they have inside help from someone with knowledge of security routines or gallery layout? Nothing is ruled out at this stage. Investigators are keeping all leads open and systematically reviewing CCTV, interviewing staff, and analyzing the recovered equipment for fingerprints or DNA as they hunt down the culprits. The heist has raised serious questions about how the Louvre's defenses were breached so easily. The thieves exploited what appears to be a glaring weakness. They were able to park a large lift truck on a public street right next to the museum's wall, unimpeded. Using this contraption, they reached an upper-level window without drawing immediate. French officials have openly admitted there were shortcomings. Justice Minister Gérald Darmanin remarked with disbelief that a basket lift could be placed against the Louvre's facade and a window forced open in broad daylight, calling it a failure in security measures. It seems the targeted gallery's windows were not properly reinforced. The thieves literally cut through the glass, and alarms did not stop the intruders until after they were inside. While marquee attractions like the Mona Lisa sit behind bulletproof glass and high-tech protections, this incident revealed that not all parts of the museum are equally secured. In essence, the robbers found and exploited a soft spot in the Louvre's vast perimeter. The Louvre's management and authorities responded swiftly in the aftermath. The museum was evacuated and closed for the rest of Sunday, and it remained shut the entire next day for the investigation. Heavily armed police and forensic teams swept through the galleries, sealing off the crime scene to preserve evidence. French President Emmanuel Macron lamented the theft as an attack on a heritage that we cherish because it is our history, and vowed that France will recover the works and bring the perpetrators to justice. Culture Minister Rachida Dati rushed to the site that morning, assuring the public that no one was hurt and promising that museum security would be reinforced even further going forward. In fact, just months earlier, the Louvre's president had pleaded for urgent government help to bolster the museum's aging security systems and overcrowded halls. A new multi-year modernization plan, dubbed the Louvre New Renaissance, was already announced in January, with about 700 million euros earmarked to upgrade infrastructure, limit crowding, and improve security technology. This brazen robbery may serve as a wake-up call to accelerate those efforts. Macron noted that the plan will provide strengthened security for the museum, and officials across France have now ordered a fresh review of security at other major cultural institutions in light of the Louvre break-in. News of the heist spread quickly, sparking shock and outrage from the public. Tourists who were at the Louvre that morning described moments of chaos and confusion. Some visitors were suddenly ordered to evacuate as sirens went off, while others found themselves temporarily locked inside galleries as security staff scrambled to secure the museum. An American visitor told reporters she saw police running through the courtyard and attempted to enter the building, only to discover doors being sealed. "We could see people inside running and some were banging on the glass doors to get out, but could not because they were locked," she recalled of the tense lockdown that followed. Within an hour, everyone was escorted out and the Louvre was closed. Many onlookers were simply stunned that thieves could so brazenly ride a lift to a window and take jewels in the middle of the day, as one incredulous observer put it. The phrase "rob the Louvre" itself seemed unbelievable. For many French citizens, the museum is a symbol of national pride, presumed to be nearly impregnable. The public outcry was immediate, with debates erupting on talk shows and social media about how such a crime could happen and who was responsible for the security lapse. Some critics even turned the incident into a political blame game. Opposition leader Jordan Bardella railed that the robbery was an unbearable humiliation for France and angrily questioned, how far will the decay of the state go? The art and museum community has also reacted with dismay. Security experts pointed out that the Louvre's protections had been considered among the best in the world, making this successful breach a serious alarm bell for all museums. "This is a very audacious crime and a slap in the face to museums everywhere," said Christopher Marinello, a prominent art recovery specialist. He noted that investigators are now in a race against time to recover the jewels before the thieves attempt to sell them off, likely by dismantling the pieces. The prospect of these historic jewels being pried apart has horrified historians and curators. Too important, too full of history, too much a part of who we are, is how French jewelry historian Nathalie Abou-Vidal described the stolen pieces. She found it almost unthinkable that criminals might destroy these one-of-a-kind treasures for profit. They're not just objects, they're part of our heritage, Vidal said, expressing hope that even on the black market, it would be impossible to erase the identity of such famous jewels. In the art world, the Louvre heist is being discussed not only as a devastating loss, but as a cautionary tale, a reminder that even the most venerable institutions must stay vigilant against evolving threats. While unprecedented in its details, this was not the first high-profile theft at the Louvre. The museum has a long history of art disappearing into the night. The most famous case came in 1911, when Leonardo da Vinci's Mona Lisa vanished from its frame, stolen by a Louvre employee, Vincenzo Peruggia, who hid inside overnight and walked out with the priceless portrait under his coat. The Mona Lisa was recovered 2 years later in Italy, and ironically, that theft helped turn the painting into a global icon. Decades later, in 1976, thieves climbed scaffolding on the museum exterior and smashed a window to steal the diamond-studded ceremonial sword of King Charles Atikurri, 1824. A technique eerily similar to the 2025 heist. That sword, used in a 19th century coronation, has never been recovered. And in 1983, 2 pieces of Renaissance-era armor, a helmet and breastplate from the 1500s, were mysteriously taken from a Louvre display. That case remained cold for nearly 4 decades until 2021, when the stolen armor resurfaced at an auction in France, finally returning to the museum after 38 years. These episodes underscore that even the Louvre, housed in a former palace, has seen its share of art crime drama over the centuries. Beyond the Louvre, the annals of art theft offer other notorious examples. The 2025 Louvre robbery is already being compared to some of the most audacious museum heists in history. In the United States, the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum theft of 1990 stands out. 2 men posing as police infiltrated a Boston museum and stole 13 masterpieces, including works by Rembrandt and Vermeer, in an 81-minute overnight raid, the largest art theft in U.S. history, still unsolved 35 years later. In Europe, a similarly bold jewel heist took place in 2019 at Dresden's Green Vault Museum in Germany, where a gang of burglars broke in before dawn and made off with diamond-encrusted 18th century royal jewels worth hundreds of millions of euros. Several perpetrators of the Dresden robbery were eventually caught, and part of the treasure was recovered, though many pieces remain missing. These comparisons show that even well-guarded museums can be vulnerable targets for those with enough daring and planning. Still, the sheer boldness of the Louvre's 2025 heist, executed in broad daylight in a crowded museum with an improvised construction lift, has few equals. It stands as one of the most brazen museum crimes of modern times, on par with the Gardner and Dresden cases in its audacity. As of now, the perpetrators of the Louvre Museum heist remain at large, and a global manhunt is in motion. French authorities are under immense pressure to recover the stolen treasures and prove that such an affront to the nation's heritage will not go unanswered. For museum officials, this incident is a sobering reminder that even the most renowned cultural institutions must continuously adapt to new forms of crime in the 21st century. The world is watching with hope that the story will have a triumphant resolution, that the priceless jewels will be found intact and those responsible brought to justice. Until then, the October 2025 Louvre heist will be remembered as a startling chapter in art history, one that has prompted urgent reflection on how to better safeguard the treasures of our past for future generations.